I was breaking up an old bathtub on my driveway when something fell out of it, wrapped in plastic. Cash, a cheap phone I'd never seen before, and a folded piece of paper with my own name on it. I'm 62 years old. I've been married to the same woman for 19 years, and in the next 10 seconds I realized she'd been planning to take everything from me. My name is Walter Hayes. I live in a quiet neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona. And what I'm about to tell you started as a small surprise for my wife. A brand new bathtub to replace the old one she always complained about. That's it. That was the whole plan. I had no idea the tub had been hiding something inside it for months, maybe longer. Pour yourself something to drink, get comfortable, and listen carefully. Because the smallest sound, a soft rustle of plastic against broken porcelain, can change a man's entire life in a single afternoon. Mine changed at exactly 2:17 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in July. I didn't even pick the bundle up right away. I just stood there in my own driveway staring at that cracked tub like it had whispered something at me from the inside. You spend 19 years in a house. You think you know every floorboard, every drawer that sticks, every wall that creaks, when the AC kicks on at 3 in the morning. That bathtub had been sitting in my master bathroom longer than my marriage. Cream-colored, chipped at the edges, a faint rust ring no bleach could lift. Karen mentioned it every couple months, said it made the whole bathroom feel old, made her feel old, so I figured I'd surprise her. That was all this was supposed to be. Karen had flown out to San Diego 3 days earlier for a corporate training session. She works in claims processing for a regional insurance firm. Spreadsheets, subrogation files, the kind of work where every comma matters. She'd been wound tight for months, coming home late, phone always face down on the counter. I figured when she walked back through that door, it'd be nice if one thing in her world felt easier. I'm not the kind of man who buys roses on a Tuesday. Never have been, but I fix things. I always have. Broken faucet, busted disposal, leaking water heater. That's how I show love. So I drove the truck down to the hardware store on Camelback, picked out a clean white soaker tub, and spent the morning shutting off valves and unscrewing nuts that hadn't moved since the late 90s. It took longer than I wanted. My lower back was already barking at me by 11. By the time I had the old tub free, I should have called somebody. My neighbor Ramirez, 2 doors down, would have come over in a heartbeat. But I didn't. That's on me. I dragged it through the hallway, out through the carport, onto the driveway. And then it slipped. It hit the hot concrete with an awful flat crack. The whole side split open like a peanut shell. And right after that crack came the rustle. Soft plastic on porcelain. Something sliding out from a hollow space inside the lip of the tub. Picture it. A man in his 60s, the Arizona sun beating down at 104 degrees, standing alone in his driveway, watching something that should not exist slide. Out of a bathtub he installed himself 2 decades ago. At first I thought it was insulation, construction trash from when the house was built in the 80s. But the more I looked, the wronger it felt. Wrapped too tight, tucked too deep, placed. I crouched down. There was a smell coming off it, faint, like old paper, like the inside of a safety deposit box. I picked up the bundle, heavier than it looked. The plastic crinkled in my fingers as I peeled the layers back. Inside was a smaller pouch, black, zippered, cheap nylon, the kind you'd grab off a drugstore end cap. And that's when my chest got tight. This wasn't junk. This wasn't forgotten. This was hidden. I unzipped it slowly. The first thing I saw was money. Stacks of cash. Not bank banded, just rubber banded. Hundreds mostly. Maybe $7,000, $8,000. I didn't count it right then. I didn't need to. Underneath the money was a phone, a flip-style burner, no case, no personalization, the kind you buy with cash at a gas station and never register. And underneath the phone, a single folded sheet of printer paper, typed, not handwritten. At the top, one word, timeline. I sank back onto my heels right there in the driveway, the hot concrete burning through my jeans. My hands felt cold. In Phoenix, in July. They felt cold. If I'd been Walter in that exact moment, my first instinct would have been to throw it all in the trash and pretend I never saw it, because some part of you knows before your brain catches up. But Walter did the harder thing. He kept reading, dates down the left side of the page, recent ones, weeks, days, next to each, short-clipped notes, re-engage after argument, push refinance angle again, keep tone supportive. I read that last line 3 times. Further down, move funds after paperwork clears, confirm separate account live, confirm Walter's signature on package, and at the bottom, 2 words, final step, nothing else. Something settled inside my chest. Not a sharp pain, something heavier, something that felt like furniture being moved into a room I didn't want furnished. The dates lined up with conversations I half remembered. Karen across the kitchen table 6 weeks ago, sliding a folder toward me, talking about retirement timing, saying we needed to be smart, be proactive, lock in a better rate before they climbed again. I could see her now, reaching across the placemats, resting her hand on top of mine, that gentle touch she always used when she wanted me to listen. This is for us, Walt. We need to plan. And I had nodded. 19 years buys you that. You stop questioning the person across the table. You just trust this wasn't an idea. This was a script, a sequence, a plan with phases. I sat in that driveway long enough that the shadow of the carport crept across the cracked tub inch by inch until the broken edge was in shade and the rest of it was still in burning sun. Eventually, I picked up the burner and pressed the power button. It came on. No pin, no fingerprint, nothing. And that might have been the worst part, because it meant whoever hid this never expected anyone else to find it. Never. I didn't open anything else yet. I wasn't ready. I just sat there on the busted edge of that tub, elbows on my knees, thinking about all the nights Karen had brushed her teeth in that bathroom, all the mornings we'd stood at the same mirror without saying much, just being two, people who knew each other. And the whole time, this had been 6 inches away, not in some bank deposit box across town, not in a storage unit behind a gas station, in our bathroom, inside the tub she stood in every single morning. If you're thinking, there's no way you'd miss something like that, I have to be honest with you. Most of us would. We don't go looking for betrayal in our own bathrooms. We just don't. I carried everything inside before dark. You don't sit in a Phoenix driveway with a stack of cash on your lap. I set the pouch on the kitchen island and made coffee, black, the way I've drunk it for 40 years. My hands didn't shake making it. I think the routine is what kept me steady. You boil water, you measure grounds, you pour, you don't fall apart. Then I sat at the breakfast bar and turned the burner phone on again. Plain home screen, generic. Icons, messages, calls. That was about it, almost worse that way. Almost easier if there'd been some password or app hiding it. This was just clean. From Mr. Schedule still good for Monday. From Karen, yes, he's been more relaxed since I got back. From Mimsar, I'll close it then. He was me. I scrolled up. From Mistar, don't push too hard this weekend. Pacing matters. From Karen, I know. 19 years. He trusts me completely. I want to tell you my heart was pounding. It wasn't. Everything got slow, everything got quiet, like the volume on the world had been turned down. From Karen, if he hesitates Monday, I'll bring up the retirement projection again. That always lands. From Mimsar, good. Keep tone supportive. Always supportive. That exact phrase. Word for word from the printed timeline. That's not coincidence, that's coordination. From MR, after signature, we move funds within 48 hours. New account already verified. I thought about the joint statements I'd been glancing at the past couple months. I'd noticed a couple of small transfers I didn't fully recognize, numbers that didn't sit quite right in the memo lines. I'd waved it off, figured maybe she'd reorganize something. Now I wasn't waving anything off. Let me say something here, and I want you to hear me. If you're a man or a woman of a certain age and your spouse handles most of the finances, The moment something doesn't add up even a little, you owe yourself 5 minutes to look. Not to accuse, just to look. Walter didn't look, and I'm not blaming him. Most of us wouldn't have either. I set the phone down and rubbed both hands over my face. 19 years. You don't burn 19 years to the ground over a few text messages. So I stood up, walked to the hallway closet where we kept the filing cabinet, pulled open the second drawer. Mortgage, insurance, old tax returns. I'd organized all of it myself a decade ago, my own little system, and that's when I saw it. A folder missing. Not obvious. You'd only know if you were the one who put the system together. The refinance packet Karen had brought home 3 weeks ago, the one I'd glanced at and placed neatly behind the homeowner's policy. Gone. I closed the drawer slow and quiet, like the cabinet had ears, and went back to the kitchen, scrolled further, into the older messages, from Karen. He asked again why now and not next year. From Mr. What did you tell him from Karen? Rates. I told him rates. He nodded and stopped asking, nodded and stopped asking. That's how she described me to him. A man who nods. A man who stops asking. Walter wasn't just hurt. He was being inventoried. Described in real time to a stranger like a problem to be managed. I stared out the kitchen window. Tangerine sky, cicadas in the oleander hedge. Everything outside looked normal. Inside that little phone, nothing was. I picked up my own phone and scrolled to a name I hadn't dialed in maybe 2 years. Frank Delgado. We'd worked construction together back when I was still doing concrete pours in the 90s. He left the trades and went into Phoenix PD, did 22 years on the job, retired detective bureau. Quiet guy. Reads people like menus. He picked up on the third ring. Walt, everything all right? I almost said yes. The lie was right there in my throat, easy as breathing. Then I looked at the burner phone on the counter. No, Frank, I said. Not really. A pause on his end. Not a long one. Just enough to know he was already shifting gears. Talk to me, brother. So I told him. Not all of it. Just enough. The tub, the pouch, the phone, the timeline. He didn't interrupt, not once. When I read him the line about keep tone supportive, I heard him exhale slow, the kind of exhale that means someone is putting puzzle pieces together they've seen before. Walt, listen to me, he said. You sure of what you're reading, word for word? I'm holding it right now, Frank. Another pause, longer. That's not random, and it's not old. Somebody wrote that recently, somebody with a goal. I already knew that. Hearing it from a 30-year cop just made it heavier. What do you think it is? He took his time. Walt, at our age, people don't have affairs for the bedroom anymore. They have affairs for the exit. I closed my eyes. What does that mean? Exactly. It means somebody's planning to leave you with as little as possible, and they're being patient about it. That patience is the part that scares me. Write that down, whoever's listening. Frank said something in that call every one of you should. Remember, affairs at 30 are chaos. Affairs at 60 are accounting. Frank told me to do nothing yet. Don't confront her, he said. Don't change your behavior. Don't even sigh different at dinner. You confront her now. All that evidence walks. Out the door in a purse. The phone disappears. The paperwork disappears. You'll look like a paranoid old man. So what do? You watch. You document. You get a lawyer. A good one. Not a referral from a friend. A real divorce attorney who's seen financial fraud. I know one. Susan Keller. She's downtown. I'll text you her number. We hung up after that. The house felt different. Not haunted. Just changed. Like the temperature had dropped 2 degrees, and I was the only one feeling it. I want to say something to you here. One human being to another. If you ever find yourself in Walter's shoes, your first instinct is going to be to scream, to call her, to throw the phone against the wall. Don't. I know it's against every fiber of who you are, but Frank was right. Composure is the only weapon you have left in that moment. Use it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the same bed I'd slept in for 19 years, staring at a ceiling fan I'd installed myself, listening to a desert wind kick up against the window. Around 3 a.m., I got up, stood at the kitchen sink, drank water out of a glass Karen had brought home from a vacation in Sedona. I picked up the burner again and started looking for patterns. Not just words this time, timing. Short calls between them, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, spread out over weeks. None at midnight, none at suspicious hours. Lunchtime, late afternoon, right after work, normal windows. And that told me everything, because normal windows mean they weren't sneaking around emotionally, they were operating. I searched the contact online. The messages mentioned the firm and Dallas twice. Michael Reeves, independent financial advisor, mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, the kind of stock photo smile that sells annuities to retirees. An old Dallas article. A former client had filed a complaint over unauthorized portfolio reallocation. No charges, no conviction, just questions that never got answered. I called Frank back at sunrise and gave him the name. Long quiet on his end, the kind that means he's writing something down. Reeves. I've heard that name. He's not a criminal, Walt. He's something worse. He's a system guy. He knows exactly where the line is, and he never quite crosses it. A long beat. This isn't a fling. You understand that, right? I'm starting to. This is asset transfer disguised as a marriage exit. You refinance, pull equity out of the house. That money goes into an account she controls with him as advisor, of record. By the time the paperwork clears, you're a renter in your own retirement. What do I do? You call Susan Keller this morning. You don't wait. I did. And later that morning I drove down to our credit union over on Thomas Road. Didn't make a scene, didn't demand anything, just asked, casually, about any pending applications attached to the house. The teller, sweet young woman, started to answer, then froze and smiled, and said she'd need both of us present. That hesitation was the answer. I drove home and went straight to Karen's closet, not snooping for laundry receipts, just checking. Her clothes were there, her shoes, her jewelry box on the dresser. I opened it. Top tray, normal. Bottom compartment, empty. There had been something there. A small velvet pouch I'd given her on our 10th anniversary. Gone. I sat on the edge of our bed, looked at the framed photo on her nightstand. The two of us at the Hoover Dam, 12 years ago, wind in her hair, my arm around her shoulder. We looked solid, real. I set the picture face down and said, out loud, to the empty room, "Who are you?" Not angry, just genuinely asking, because the woman in those messages wasn't the woman in that picture, or maybe she was and I'd just spent 19 years not paying attention. At the very top of that printed timeline, above the dates, one tiny line in smaller font I'd almost missed. Re-engage prior contact. Re-engage. That word knocked the wind out of me. Re-engage means you knew them before. Means there's history. Means whatever this was had been paused, not invented. I called Frank. They knew each other before. The plan says, re-engage. A long breath. Then this isn't betrayal, Walt. This is a return. She didn't fall into something, she went back to it. I'm not confronting her. Good. Let her come back to Phoenix. Let her walk into Monday's meeting thinking she's holding all the cards. You let her play it out. Karen flew back into Sky Harbor Thursday afternoon. I heard the same little double tap on the brakes she's done for 19 years. Some habits don't lie, even when the person does. Everything was put away. The pouch, the burner, the folder of evidence I'd been quietly building with Susan Keller all week. Every message, photographed, backed up, time-stamped. Notarized copies in a safe deposit box across town under my sister's name. The new tub still sat in the garage, hadn't installed it, felt wrong to. Walt? In the kitchen, hun, suitcase rolling in, hair up in that loose clip she always wore on travel days. Same Karen. That was the worst part of the whole week. How Identical, she looked to the woman I had loved. She kissed my cheek, quick, familiar, automatic. How was the flight? Long. San Diego is San Diego. You haven't started on the bathroom? Got the old one out. New one's in the garage. Figured this weekend. Just for a second, her shoulders relaxed. If I hadn't been watching for it, I'd have missed it. We had dinner that night like nothing was different. Grilled chicken, rice, salad. Her fork clinked against her plate. She'd take a sip of water, set the glass down too carefully. Her phone buzzed face down on the table. She didn't even glance at it. I knew exactly which phone was buzzing because in my pocket, the burner I'd been carrying all week buzzed too. Same instant, different pattern. I didn't react. I reached for the salt. After dinner, she asked if I'd thought more about the refinance. I have. I think we should sit down with somebody and look at the numbers. Her whole body softened. She tried. To hide it, couldn't quite. Actually, I already reached out to a friend from the San Diego conference. Specializes in retirement-age homeowners. Michael Reeves. He's flying in Monday. Monday works, I said. She studied my face, looking for the crack, the doubt, the hesitation. I gave her none. Just a conversation, right? She said. Yeah, I said. Just a conversation. She smiled, and for a moment it almost looked real. After she went to bed, I sat in the dark living room and called Susan Keller's cell. We're set for Monday, I told her. You're sure you want to do it this way, Walter? I'm sure. Then I'll be there. And Walt, you don't say a single word more than we rehearsed. Not one. Got it. Monday morning I woke before the alarm. Karen, still asleep beside me, breathing slow, turned away. For a long minute I just listened. 19 years of listening to the same person breathe in the same bed. Whatever else was true about her, that part had been real for a long time. Or maybe it hadn't. Maybe I was the one assigning meaning where there was just routine. We didn't talk much on the drive downtown. She checked her phone twice. The conference room at the credit union was small, glass-walled, a long table, 4 chairs. Michael Reeves stood the moment we walked in. Tall, pressed shirt, a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes. The exact stock photo from the article. Walter. Real pleasure. We shook hands. He turned to my wife. Karen. Good to see you again. Again. There was that word. I didn't react. He started right in. Smooth. Practiced. Numbers floating across the table. Loan-to-value ratios. Equity extraction. Rate locks. Karen nodded along, adding little supportive comments at exactly the right beats. Just like the script. He slid a thick folder across to me. Just preliminary figures, Walt. No pressure today. I put my hand flat on top of the folder. Didn't open it. Leaned back, took a breath, reached into my jacket, and set the burner phone on the table between us. The room went very still. Karen's eyes dropped to the phone, then up to me. Walt, what is that? Steady voice. I'll give her that. I reached into my other pocket and unfolded the timeline beside it, smoothed it flat with the side of my hand, and said the line I'd practiced in the bathroom mirror for 4 mornings straight. You forgot this in the bathtub. Karen. 1 long second, nothing moved. Then I saw it. Her face didn't crack. It calculated. Michael's eyes flicked once between the phone and the page. He knew. Of course he knew. Karen leaned back slowly. You went through my things. It fell out, Karen. When the tub broke, it all fell out. Michael cleared his throat. I think there may be some confusion here. Mr. Reeves, I said, not raising my voice. The messages are still on the phone. The dates match. The transfer instructions match. The verified account number matches. We can keep going if you want. Karen looked at me differently then. Like she was seeing me for the first time in 19 years. How much did you read? All of it. She exhaled, and to my surprise, nodded once, like a woman closing a chapter. Okay, she said quietly. Michael shifted. Karen, we should. It's done, Michael. He already knows. Stop talking. The most honest sentence I'd heard from her in months. I slid a second folder across the table. This is what's been documented. Messages, dates, bank inquiries, notarized copies are off-site. Right on cue, the door opened. Susan Keller stepped in. Black blazer, briefcase, calm as a morning lake. Mr. Reeves, Mrs. Hayes. Michael's posture stiffened. Mr. Reeves, Susan said evenly, I'd like to discuss attempted asset reallocation, undisclosed fiduciary contact with a married client, and coordination of marital fraud across state lines. We can do that here or in front of a judge in Maricopa County. Your preference. Michael's confidence cracked like the bathtub did on my driveway. Not all at once. A long, slow seam. He stood. I think this is over. That's your right, Susan said. But this conversation isn't ending, just relocating. He walked out. Just left her there. She didn't even watch him go, kept her eyes on me. You planned this. I shook my head. No, Karen, you did. I just stopped sleeping through it. Something behind her face fell. Whatever was left of the woman I married, not the calculator. Maybe just a sliver of her was still in there. What happens now? Now everything stops. Every transfer, every signature, every step on that timeline. It all stops today. She nodded. Once picked up her purse and walked out of that conference room without another word. I didn't follow her. Didn't need to. A few weeks later, the house felt quiet again. A different kind of quiet. Cleaner, lighter. The new bathtub was finally installed. White, simple, nothing fancy. I stood in the doorway one morning with my coffee looking at it, thinking about how something so small can split open something so big. Here's where I want to talk to you directly, friend to friend. Because this story, as wild as it sounds, is not rare. It's happening in quiet houses all over this country. The mistake most people make is assuming loyalty is permanent. It isn't. Loyalty is renewed every single year by both people. The day one person stops renewing it, the marriage becomes a performance. And in this country, especially after 50, financial betrayal is one of the fastest growing forms of elder harm. AARP has been warning about it for years. Refinancing scams, deed transfers, quitclaim signatures buried inside refinance packets. Your local Adult Protective Services office actually handles these cases. So does the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You can request a free credit freeze through Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You can pull your home title from your county recorder for under $20. You can file an alert on your Social Security number. These are tools nobody tells you about until it's too late. So let me give you one specific thing to do this week. Pull your last 3 bank statements. Read every single line item, not the totals, the line items. If even one transfer doesn't make sense to you, ask out loud to the person in your life who handles the money. You are allowed to ask. You are not paranoid. You are awake. And ask yourself this question tonight, before you go to sleep. If something happened to me tomorrow, do I actually know where my own money is? If you don't know the answer, that's the answer. If you've ever found yourself in a situation like Walter's, if your gut has been telling you something for months and you've been pushing it down because it's easier, please listen to it. If you're a son or daughter watching your aging parent get pulled into financial decisions that don't add up, step in. Gently, but step in. If you're someone who handles all the finances in your relationship and you've been carrying that, wait alone, bring your partner in. Show them everything. Transparency is love at any age, and if you're someone who's already lost a lot to someone you trusted, please hear me. It is not your fault. You loved correctly. They acted incorrectly. Those are 2 different things. If this moved you, tell me in the comments. Did Walter play it exactly right? Did Karen deserve a chance to explain herself first? Has something in your own home ever changed how you saw the person beside you? Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right there. I read everyone. This is a fictional story. Inspired by patterns seen in real elder fraud and financial betrayal cases across the United States, fully rewritten to bring you something original. Names, places, and details are entirely invented. If anything here matched your own life too closely, please reach out to a licensed attorney, your local adult protective services, or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You are not alone. Sometimes, the truth doesn't come crashing in. Sometimes it's just a soft, dry rustle, plastic sliding across broken porcelain. So pay attention, stay kind, stay awake.